Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nakia Henderson, and I wanted to welcome you to the new student orientation and advising session here at St. Joe's for graduate students that are part of the Health Administration Program, Health Education, or the Joint Program. Thanks, Yufi, for introducing me and also being available as the moderator for this session. I see that we have actually 6 students that are attending today out of our 7, so I want to congratulate you for taking some time out of your day to actually tune in with us. And hopefully, if you have any additional questions that's going to be helpful in getting you started for this semester, I can answer them today. I'm going to go over our agenda for today, which includes an introduction and also getting started, your degree plan, registration, student success, which includes class format, assignments, campus resources, and also student expectations as a graduate student here at St. Joe's. So for getting started here on campus, I wanted to make sure that I cover what's the most important thing in terms of being a new Hawk student. You want to make sure that you get your student ID. And most students will ask the question of why do I need one? And many of our students are working full-time students. We have 90% of our students that are working during the day, so it's very difficult to get on campus to our Office of Public Safety to get your ID, but it's very important that you have this ID on campus. We certainly know that we want to make sure that you have access and entrance to all of the facilities here, and one of the ways that you would actually be able to enter some of our buildings is through ID swipe access only. It's also important to note that you could use your ID for when you're printing your materials or papers. When you use the library here, it's tracked through your ID. So it's really important that you get your student ID, and the actual location in which you can ascertain that student ID would be in the Office of Public Safety, and that's located in Barberlin Hall. Barberlin Hall, for those of you who are familiar with the St. Joe's campus, is on the top of the hill, located where our track, or for our tennis courts, for those of you who have been on campus, we have a great track out there for our student athletes, but Barberlin Hall is up on top of the hill where that the actual track is. And so there is a entrance in which the Office of Public Safety would allow for you to acquire your student ID in that particular office. If you have any additional questions around whether or not you had an ID as an undergraduate, and if it's obviously reactivated because you're coming back as a returning Hawk, that may be also a question that they may be able to answer in the public safety office, or you can actually get a replacement. And I believe that the replacement fee, if in fact you lost your ID, is very minimal. So it's also important to note that your ID is free, and if you have to get it replaced, it will be minimal. Additionally, in the Office of Public Safety, you can acquire a St. Joe's parking decal or parking permit. Parking permits can be purchased at the office located in Barberlin Hall, but also online via your MySJU website. I will discuss a little bit more about the MySJU website and what resources are available to you as a student. In addition to your parking decal that allows for access to the student parking lot and also the parking garage, there's an additional, I believe it's an additional decal that you need to park across the street at our McGuire campus. The McGuire campus is fairly new for St. Joe's, but we do have some limited parking over there if in fact you have classes in the evening on McGuire campus. You may just want to check with the Office of Public Safety to be certain that you have both decals that are appropriate for the area in which you will be parking in. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to actually type in your questions, and I will answer your questions when appropriate. If in fact it's throughout the webinar or at the end, I will be certain to get to all of them. So for class selection, this is oftentimes one of the first questions that I get from many of the new students. Ideally, students are very anxious about getting started and not really sure what they should do in terms of the class that they should take first. All of you at this point should have received an acceptance letter and also the information that's related to your advising check sheet or your degree plan, and also your student status and whether you're full acceptance, provisional acceptance, or you have some conditions in which you will be fully accepted upon completion of perhaps two classes this semester and a review of your academic record for the next semester. Your degree plan will include HAD Fall 2013 advising information, as well as if you're a HED student, Fall 2013 advising information, and if you're a joint degree student, then you would also receive that advising sheet. It's important to note that if you are here and you do not plan to get started, and hopefully you are, but if you're not planning to get started for the fall, that if you're going to get started for the spring, that we have an additional conversation, because the information that I'm going to discuss now may not necessarily apply to you. The first three courses that are very important for most students to get started, unless those classes are not available at the time, will be your foundational core courses. Those courses include your health administration course, your healthcare organization, your health services research, and two of your additional core courses would be managed healthcare and ethics of healthcare. This semester we have health administration, HAD, offered on Monday evenings. Typically we try to schedule the classes that are most necessary for new entry students on days that does not present any type of conflict for a student. So our health administration course, which is the standard face-to-face format, is offered on Monday evenings at 6:30 to 9:10. If you receive your program start and degree plan, you will note that the CRN, which is your course record number, is included on that actual sheet for you. There's three columns. One has the course name and number, and also a course description information in relationship to that particular course that's being offered for the semester that is planned. That's the third column. And that third column, is important to note that the modality for the course in which you will be taking for that particular term is offered and also noted on the sheet, such as I'm not sure if you have it in front of you, but just to give you an example, in spring 2014, for those of you who are starting in fall 2013, you will be expected to take managed care, and it will be offered as a hybrid online course. It's important to note that this information is a guide and not necessarily an absolute for each student. It depends obviously on your flexibility, the amount of courses that you're taking per semester, and what you can actually accomplish in one particular semester for you in regards to your actual work-life balance. I see that there's a question coming in, and I will take a few minutes to try to look at the question from Matthew and see if I can answer that question in a few seconds. I also wanted to make note that oftentimes we recognize that many students are vacationing with their families during the summer, and we like to make sure that we can maintain some sort of flexibility and additional options. During the summertime is when we generally have additional summer weekend day courses, which is kind of like the courses are offered in a seminar format from 8:30 to 5 in 5 days, 5 consecutive days. So that allows for the students to have additional time with their family. I will go over our actual course formats and also the actual times and schedule in which each semester actually follows. I see, Matthew, you had a question in regards to, is it possible to receive an additional copy of this advising sheet? Absolutely. We can get you an additional advising sheet. In addition to that, we'll be certain to add the advising sheets to our Blackboard course resource, our resource course for students. This is a non-credit course for each student who is newly admitted to the program, to be certain that they have the information that is necessary, whether it's through new student orientation or if it's communication throughout the semester. If you all who are attending tonight, or attending today, have not been added to that actual section, we'll be certain to get you into that session. So registration, how do you register for classes? Again, this is another question that we hear from students. While you have the degree plan, you know what classes you need to take, you know what's your core requirements, you also recognize that you may need to take some electives. Many students are stuck when it comes to getting registered for classes. Here at St. Joe's, we try to be student friendly and reach out to the students to help you with registration for the first classes. But we recognize that as an independent student, we want to empower you with the tools that is necessary for you to get registered after perhaps your first semester of getting that additional help in the very beginning. So you want to register through the registrar's website. And you can generally do this through your MySJU website in a very short amount of time. And typically, while I could probably walk you through the process, is very different for me as an administrator here at St. Joe's versus you as a student, but there's always someone to be able to help you. I think it's fairly simple for you to be able to go onto the registrar site, and I believe that there's an additional sheet. I do know that there's a how to get registered sheet, and also I believe it's steps that are a part of our Blackboard website that you guys will be in regards to it, the resource room. Students who are admitted on a full-time basis and international students must carry a full schedule of no less than 3 courses. It's important to note that while all of our students are part-time students, from a financial aid perspective, if you are taking 2 classes or more, then you would qualify for financial aid. In our department, we typically are not able to help students with the financial aid process. We generally can guide you to the correct person who would actually be able to answer your questions in relationship to financial aid inquiries. The only exceptions to students who are part-time students taking more than 2 courses per semester must be approved 1 term in advance by the director of the program in which a student is enrolled. And it's important to note that just because I have had students who typically may believe that it's a possibility for them to take more than 2 classes. However, we have seen, students who not academically be able to perform or achieve what they potentially set out to do when doing so. So I just want you all to be mindful to not take on more than you can actually handle. And so it also needs to be approved. And then we can work with each student to make sure that you have reach your actual academic level of success and perform well in the program here at St. Joe's. Another important tip to note is that if you have any holds on your account, again, our office as well as the actual admissions or marketing office will not have information in regards to holds on your account. When it comes to holds on your account, it's very important to note that you want to contact Hawk Central. Oftentimes what I've seen is perhaps there is a bill that needs to be taken care of, or in fact you may have a library book out, so oftentimes it's not something that we will know that's on your account, so you probably want to contact the Hawk Central. I would hate for you to get go through many different offices just to find out that you could have had your answer or question resolved within the Hawk Central office. So for our class formats, typically our classes throughout the semester offer 1 night per week in the fall and spring terms, and in the summer sessions are offered 2 times per week with a time about 3 hours per session. Those are our traditional evening courses catering to our adult student population. We have about 10% of our students who are full-time or international status. We also offer online courses, and I say we offer online courses, but that does not happen every single semester. It depends on the enrollment and also the interest of students who are part of our main campus program. When you go to register, if you do not follow the steps that will be stated on in the resource room in regards to getting registered, you can find yourself kind of frustrated with the system and seeing online sections that are not dedicated to you. I think it's really important to note that those courses are for students who have signed up for a distance education learning experience. So while we have students who are interested in perhaps face-to-face courses here at St. Joe's, such as yourself, we want to make sure that you know while we offer some online courses for you all, or hybrid approach for our courses, which is a combination of online and in-class instruction, the full online courses that run in 8-week formats are specifically reserved for those students who are in the online distance education program. We have many students who are across the country, and we certainly do not want to clog up the system by not allowing for them to get registered for their courses first. So we think that if there is an extenuating circumstance with the particular student for a semester, there may be an approval, but this is highly unlikely. So I just wanted to remind you all that. Many of the students who sign up for the main campus program are very much interested in the face-to-face learning environment, and so we try to make sure that at least 80 to 90% of that learning environment is in a face-to-face learning environment for the students. And perhaps if you have any additional questions around hybrid or online courses or how you can actually have additional options, then we can have a separate conversation outside of our webinar this morning or this afternoon, excuse me. But if you know, on your degree plan, it'll tell you when, in fact, the actual type of class that's scheduled for the semester that's planned, whether it's an online, hybrid, or traditional evening courses. And one of the reasons that we kind of looked at a degree plan for each student to give you an idea of how you're going to be taking your classes is just to allow for you to perhaps plan for the future if, in fact, you have to balance, work and also your schedule between your spouses and also children activities. So we want to make sure that you can try to plan out for the next 2 years, because we believe that most of you who are joining us tonight will this afternoon will be completing the program within 2 to 3 years. Courses are held on weekends, usually 5 to 6 Saturdays or Sundays for our weekend courses. And I did mention for you all who are getting started for the fall, it will be recommended that you take your summer courses, and the summer courses will be inclusive of your electives in summer 2015, and there's 4 different electives listed here, but you should only choose 2, and those courses will be offered in that weekend course format. If you have additional questions, again, you can write them in the question area, or we can talk offline in regards to the format for those particular classes. So class offerings. Typically our classes are offered in 4 semesters. Fall includes late August to mid-December. Spring is mid-January, typically after Martin Luther King Day, to mid-May. And then that also includes finals week for both mid-December and mid-May. And then in summer, summer 1 is mid-May to late June, summer 2, late June to early August. And again, it's important to note those time frames because, if you see a course that's offered in an 8-week format, and it has online, it's traditionally for students who are part of the distance education program. And so not to frustrate the registration process, you want to keep that in mind. Classes are held at the main campus in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with the exception of students who are part of our Einstein cohort program, and they actually take classes at the Einstein Medical Center. Online sections are for students that have enrolled in the distance education program, and special circumstances are needed to be met in order for a student to take an online course that are part of the on-campus traditional face-to-face format. So I think it's important to address some areas of student success and also what is to be expected in your classes. Typically, I have a lot of students who will ask about exams. Will they, in fact, have exams in their classes, or how will they be evaluated in terms of the course content and learning objectives? Most of the graduate work is evaluated through scholarly writing rather than exams. There are exceptions, but majority of the coursework is writing intensive with critical thinking and application expected. Papers are expected to be well written, researched, and grammatically correct. Research papers must follow the guidelines of the American Psychology Association writing style. It's very important to note that while you may not necessarily be familiar with this writing style, you may want to get familiar with it for the next 2 years. We typically like for students to follow this writing style, even if, in fact, they have used MLA and a similar experience, or if an additional master's level program. A current APA format book is available at the SJU bookstore, or you can check out this site. It's listed here if you want to go ahead and write it down. It's http://www.apastyle.org. Most research papers are expected to be between 10 to 15 pages, and usually at least 15 peer-reviewed journal articles are required for references and also credibility. Oftentimes, our students ask, is this the only way that I will be evaluated? And of course not. We expect that most of you are engaged in your classroom learning experience, as well as You may have to do a presentation in your classroom, and so for the most part, we expect that most students are very comfortable with presenting to their fellow colleagues or also their fellow classmates, and if you haven't, that you will become very comfortable with that. I think it's also important to note that not only are you presenting for your fellow students, you're presenting for your instructor, but you never know if a fellow student may one day perhaps be an actual employer for yourself. So you want to make sure that you present yourself in the best way possible, not just for your instructor, but for a fellow student. The average years of experience for our students at this point is about 8 years of experience, and we have some middle level managers. We also have some senior managers who are a part of our actual program, as well as some students who are fairly new to healthcare and are intern to fill with perhaps 2 to 3 years experience. So I think that the variances of experience is important to note, because you never know if in fact you network within your particular group that you may be working side by side with the CEO of the company. So you want to keep that in mind for your presentations in classes. So what is peer-reviewed journal articles? I think it's also important because some students will hear, my paper has to be completed with peer-reviewed journal articles in terms of the references and also my citations. And it's just important to note that peer review means that a source is considered a scholarly journal that has been reviewed by professionals that are in the field. Some of these journal articles include the Journal of American Medical Association, the Journal of Public Health, the International Journal of Pediatric Obesity, and also American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. These are very minimal in terms of the journal articles that you will be able to find in your respective field or also respective major, health admin or health education. There are literally hundreds of journal articles available through the SJU library. The Drexel Library is wonderful in being able to provide multiple ways for students to do their research here at St. Joe's. We know that technology allows for most people to do things that does not require you to physically be here on campus, and most of your research can be completed online. We also would encourage you to actually visit the Drexel Library. We had an expansion over the last 2 years, and it's important to note that we have several services available through our post-common library that would allow for you to complete your research. Your student ID keeps tracks of your usage, and if you wish to visit the library, you should know that you have a limited amount of papers that you can print through your account per semester. The SJU website has a chat IM function, which is really cool for most students who typically can't get onto campus, where you can ask the library right from your home computer for help. Most hours for the libraries, I believe in the summer, we're open until 10. But throughout the school year, when we have students who are here, I believe it's till 11 or 12. I'm not exactly sure, but it's pretty late. So even if you get on campus a few hours early, it may be a good idea for you to try to get to the library before class, or if you finish your class at 9, 10 and you just needed another hour or so to try to stop past the library, they actually have several people who are on staff that will be able to help you in regards to completing your research or any journal articles. There's a librarian assigned specifically to the Department of Health Services, and she is available to help whenever it is needed. So while you can actually go to the general librarian, she could probably point you into the direction of someone who's more skilled at knowing exactly what journal articles or research information that you may be looking for as a health education, health administration, or joint degree student. IT at SJU. Certainly, it's important to note that we have a robust system in terms of how you can access perhaps your MySJU account, or be able to see your student record or your academic transcript, or if you need to order books, how you add and drop classes. And the days of us actually completing paper and turning it into Hawk Central is far gone. So it's important to note that you want to log into MySJU account and become very familiar with the services that are available through MySJU as a student to you. Students generally would receive a username and ID through the Office of Information Technology, and you should have all received that by now. And also you will be able to find, be able to manage your account balance also through the MySJU account. If you are, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you have a class that uses Blackboard, and Blackboard is a function of your MySJU that allows you to submit assignments right online, and so typically for most students, they will generally see courses that you are enrolled in, and you will see that non-credit course, which is the student resource course that you will be enrolled in. The course does not have any credit assigned to it. It just allows for you to have information that may be necessary for success in your program. And typically, this is also an area that an instructor may use for communication, or if in fact you need to send me an email, you could either use my SJU email, or you can actually send me an email through, and I've had a few students who send an email through the Blackboard site that's set up as a resource for the students who are newly admitted and our students who are continuing. So now that I've gone through all of what I expect for the students who are newly admitted, and also here at St. Joe's, I think that it's important to note that some of the last points that I would expect for you all is to be a self-starter, take the initiative, be a leader. You were selected out of the people who had actually applied to our program because we believe that you certainly can be a leader in the field of healthcare. Be certain to choose topics to research based on your current interests or perhaps your future interests in healthcare. You always want to make sure that in your classes that you're participating. We recognize that some students all have, different personalities, but to your level of participation, you want to make sure that you give that. That can be the difference between perhaps an instructor actually, increasing your grade just based on the amount of times that you participate in a class. If in fact you have been able to prove to that instructor that you have the knowledge that's necessary, but perhaps it's very difficult for you to communicate that sometimes. Even when you're doing your assignments, they can actually see where you may be coming from in that regard. Also, collaborate and network. It's important to note that, again, many of our students are coming from the field. Most of you who are part-time are working full-time, and you certainly have the opportunity to have a wealth of healthcare executives in your current classroom environment. So you want to make sure that you're collaborating and networking within your student group now. Also, make presentations to the class, and this is expected generally through PowerPoint or Prezi. And I know that most students know that, you should be using a PowerPoint. However, we know that some students have been out of the arena of education for quite some time and have not had experience with PowerPoint and may not have used this tool. And it's important, while some instructors may note it, it's the expectation that you know that you have to make a presentation to your classroom using some sort of presentation application, whether it's PowerPoint, Prezi, and there's a few others. Consider joining healthcare organizations. This is also important to note and also very helpful for you. Most of you who will join a healthcare organization such as ACHA, which is American College of Healthcare Executives, will be able to join it, I believe, for a very minimal cost, or if not free, as an actual student representative. But you will gain access to some journal articles. You probably gain access to an additional network of healthcare executives, and also find out what's going on in the field of healthcare. So it's really important to actually consider joining those healthcare organizations as a student. And also, if you miss a class, it's up to you to make up or acquire any information that you miss. I know that this is very generic and certainly probably simple for most of you who are here this afternoon, but it's important for me to note that because there are some students who perhaps have a very difficult time and a challenge in terms of, balancing school and just kind of getting themselves situated. And you may want to find a buddy in your classroom on which you may be able to rely upon when, in fact, you're facing some challenging times, rather than take it all on yourself. You are all here together to be successful together and to complete your program together. Remember to be original, be the maddest, and live greater. If you have any additional questions, I'm here, and I'm looking forward to answering them. If not, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll be around for a minute, so feel free to type your questions now.